She was just another quiet face in the office, kind, focused, and always on time. Most people barely noticed her, except for one thing that always caught attention: the strange tattoo on the back of her neck. Whispers would start every time she passed by. Some thought it was a failed design. Others assumed it was a cry for attention. No one ever asked her about it directly. They just joked behind her back, dismissing her as the girl with the weird mark. But what they didn't know was that this so-called simple woman had a story no one could have imagined. Her past wasn't just private, it was protected by government clearance. The tattoo wasn't just ink, 'twas a symbol, a coded identifier, from a life she never spoke about. And she had her reasons for staying silent. Everything changed one morning during a regular security drill at work. An unexpected visitor from a federal agency walked in, scanned the room, and stopped cold when he saw her. What followed stunned the entire office. People who once laughed at her were now frozen in disbelief. The room turned silent as the officer addressed her by a name no one had ever heard before. One that wasn't listed in the company's system. What happened next flipped the whole narrative and left her coworkers questioning everything they thought they knew. Why was she living under a different name? What did the tattoo really mean? And most of all, what secret was she hiding that made even the government step in? The answer wasn't just shocking, it was something that would put the entire office under a spotlight they never asked for. And that was only the beginning. Nobody at the office could focus after that moment. The man in the suit, clearly not just any visitor, whispered something to her, and she nodded without hesitation. It was the first time anyone saw her speak more than a few words. The room buzzed with silent curiosity as they watched her calmly collect her things and leave without a single glance back. That tattoo, once the butt of jokes, had suddenly become a warning sign of something much bigger. Whispers spread faster than wildfire. Some thought she was a former spy. Others guessed military intelligence. A few wondered if they had unknowingly worked beside someone involved in national security. Even her closest colleague, Jenna, who shared lunch breaks and casual conversations with her, realized she knew nothing real about the woman she thought was just Shay. People started digging, but nothing came up. No social media, no digital history, not even a proper background check result from HR. It was as if she never existed before she joined the company. That's when fear started creeping in. What kind of person erases their past that completely, and why? The office manager received a quiet visit later that day. No explanations, just a firm warning to not discuss what happened. Cameras in the building were checked and footage removed. Employees were told to carry on as usual, but nothing felt normal anymore. A strange tension lingered in the air. Meanwhile, Jenna couldn't stop thinking about the day Shay once helped her during a tech glitch. How she handled a classified-looking interface with ease, then brushed it off like nothing. At the time, it seemed odd. Now, it felt like a clue. Jenna had questions, and she wasn't the only one wondering who this woman truly was and what came next. Jenna couldn't sleep that night. The image of Shay calmly leaving the office with that federal agent kept replaying in her mind. Every interaction they'd shared now felt like a piece of a much larger puzzle. The way Shay always avoided personal questions, how she never joined group chats or office parties, it all suddenly made sense. But what haunted Jenna more was the look in Shay's eyes that day. Calm, almost resigned, like she knew this moment would come. At the office, things took a strange turn. Security protocols quietly changed. Employees were asked to re-verify their credentials. Emails with strange codes started bouncing around the internal system before quickly disappearing. Few people who had openly mocked Shay found their access restricted or their projects reassigned. No one said anything out loud, but everyone could feel that something big had been uncovered. and the company was trying to clean up quietly. Meanwhile, Jenna began digging on her own. She remembered a small detail, a charm on Shay's keychain, shaped like a hawk. Searching through forums and old classified symbols online, she found something chilling. That hawk resembled a symbol used by a disbanded covert unit rumored to handle high-level intelligence operations. The tattoo on Shay's neck. It wasn't decorative. It looked like a unit marker, encrypted, untraceable, and classified daughters in the office were reacting in different ways. Raj, the IT guy, noticed strange login attempts from outside networks. Lisa from HR was visibly nervous, especially after a closed-door meeting with the board. And somewhere in all of this, the company's founder, who hadn't stepped foot in the building for over a year, suddenly scheduled an emergency return visit. Jenna could sense it. This wasn't just about a secret tattoo or a hidden identity. Shay's past had stirred something deep, and whatever it was far from over. Jenna knew she was crossing a line, but the questions wouldn't stop. She couldn't shake the feeling that Shay hadn't just disappeared, she'd been taken. Or worse, activated. Every moment in the office now felt like a scene from a thriller. The usual buzz of meetings and emails was replaced with tension so thick, even the air felt heavy. People spoke in hushed tones. Some avoided eye contact altogether. And yet, no one dared to mention Shay's name. That week, Raj pulled Jenna aside. He'd found something strange, a security file buried deep in the company's server with restricted access levels higher than even the board. The file had no name, just coordinates and a date: this Friday. The location: the rooftop of their own office building. Jenna's pulse raced. Why there? Why now? Meanwhile, Lisa from HR handed in her resignation without a word. She walked out, pale, her hands shaking. Jenna tried to talk to her, but Lisa only whispered, "It's bigger than you think," before disappearing into a waiting black car that no one had seen arrive. Every sign pointed to something coming. The founder arrived 2 days early, escorted by men who weren't wearing typical business suits. They weren't introduced. They didn't smile. They just watched. That night, Jenna stayed late, pretending to finish a project. Her real goal was to access the restricted server. When Raj finally cracked part of it, they found partial footage from the day Shay left, grainy, but clear enough. Shay wasn't surprised. She nodded once, and before she turned to leave, she looked straight at the camera like she knew someone would be watching later. Like she wanted Jenna to see. Friday arrived. The office clock ticked toward the time in the file. Jenna made her way to the rooftop, heart pounding. Something was waiting there, something she couldn't explain, and maybe wouldn't survive. The rooftop was silent, the kind of silence that makes you feel like you're being watched. Jenna stood still, her eyes scanning every shadow, every movement in the corner of her vision. The city lights flickered below, but up here, everything felt distant, like she'd stepped into a different world. Then, from the far side of the rooftop, a figure emerged. Not Shay, someone else. A woman in a dark coat, holding a small case and wearing a badge Jenna didn't recognize. Her voice was low but direct. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "But since you are, tell me how much you know." Taya hesitated, heart racing. Before she could speak, the woman opened the case and showed her a photo. It was Shay, but not how Jenna remembered her. Dressed in tactical gear, surrounded by people in similar uniforms. The photo was labeled Operative Theta 9, classified. "She was one of us," the woman said. "But she broke protocol. She vanished for 5 years. Until she showed up here." Under a different name, Jenna couldn't believe what she was hearing. Shay had gone off the grid on purpose. And the agency, whoever they were, wasn't here just to bring her back. They believed she had something critical. Before Jenna could respond, the woman looked past her shoulder. "They're here," she whispered. Jenna turned around. Froze. Two black drones hovered silently just above the rooftop, lights scanning the space. A voice crackled through a hidden speaker. All non-cleared personnel must stand down immediately. Jenna backed away, panic rising in her chest. The woman from the agency didn't flinch. Instead, she pulled a device from her coat and pressed a button. In an instant, the rooftop lit up with a blue pulse, and everything electronic shut down. But the drones didn't fall. They adapted, and that's when Jenna realized they weren't here for observation. They were here for extraction, or worse. The drones moved in, silent but with purpose, scanning the rooftop with eerie precision. Jenna stood frozen, caught between fear and disbelief, when a voice echoed from the stairwell. It was calm, familiar, and unmistakably her Skye. She stepped into the open, no longer dressed like the woman from the office. She wore a dark, fitted jacket marked with faint symbols, her tattoo now fully visible and glowing faintly under the city lights. Jenna's breath caught. "Stand down," Shay said, her voice firm. The drones paused mid-air. The agent beside Jenna narrowed her eyes. "You triggered a dormant protocol," she said quietly, almost with awe. "They recognize you as active." I walked forward slowly. "Because I am," she replied. "I came here to disappear." "But they never let you go." "Not really." Jenna could barely speak. "Why now? Why come back?" Shay's eyes softened. "Because someone in this building triggered a signal buried in old code. Someone who's been quietly selling fragments of classified tech without even knowing what they were handling." Jenna suddenly understood. Wasn't just Che who had a secret. Someone inside the company had unknowingly reopened a channel connected to her past. That file with the rooftop DT wasn't a meeting. It was a recovery point. Trap. Set long ago. Before Jenna could respond, the agent moved forward. "We're taking you in," she told Shay. But Shay shook her head. "No, I'm finishing this." She pulled a small transmitter from her pocket and tossed it to Jenna. "Upload this to the server. It'll shut the system down for good." The agent reached for her weapon, but Shay was faster. In one swift motion, she disarmed her. The drones locking into standby mode, Jenna ran to the edge, signal in hand, hesitating for just a second. Then she connected it. The building's lights flickered, systems crashed, and for the first time, the hidden network beneath the company went dark. But just as the rooftop went still, a small device on the agent's belt blinked red. She looked down, stunned. "This wasn't just about Shay," she whispered. "They wanted both of you." Jenna stared at her, confused. And then it hit her she had been part of this longer than she ever knew. Jenna stepped back, her thoughts spinning. The realization hit hard. This wasn't just Shay's story. Somehow, unknowingly, she had been entangled in the web too. The transmitter Shay gave her didn't just shut down the system, it revealed files linked to Jenna's family name. Her late father's work in advanced encryption, long buried under secrecy, had unknowingly become part of the tech this company was exploiting. That's why she was watched. That's why Shay stayed close. As the rooftop returned to silence, the drones powered down completely. The agent, now unarmed and clearly outmaneuvered, gave Jenna a single nod. "You were never supposed to know," she said quietly, "but I guess it runs deeper than we thought." Shay turned to Jenna, her voice softer now. "I didn't plan for any of this to unfold like this. But the moment I saw you here, I knew they'd come eventually." You deserved the truth. Back inside the office, the chaos left behind was quickly buried under vague memos and system resets. Most employees were told it was a tech malfunction. Raj transferred to another department. Lisa's resignation was quietly withdrawn. And the founder, he never showed his face again. Jenna left the company a week later, not in fear, but in clarity. She knew who she was now and the history her family carried. Shay disappeared again, but this time, not as a mystery, but as someone who had finally finished what she came to do. In the end, that strange tattoo mocked and misunderstood was a symbol not of rebellion, but of protection, loyalty, and secrets. Only a few were meant to understand. Jenna never saw her again. But sometimes, when the world grew quiet, she'd remember Shay's final words. Some marks aren't just ink, they're reminders of the truths we're trusted to carry.